Live your life with so much joy and zeal that uptight Christians question your salvation. All right, next question from Caleb. How do you feel God feels about fighting? If he was present on earth as he was thousands of years ago, would he support mixed martial arts combat? If not, why do Christian fighters feel the need to proclaim Christ after doing an act he would not approve of? Because the Bible states multiple times God hates violence. Psalms 11:5. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked and him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. I love martial arts, but want to hear your opinion on the matter. Much love. C. Cope. I think yes. Psalms 11:5. If this is exactly the way it is written, the Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked and him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. It depends on what you think violence is. Was it Connor, was it last episode someone asked about violence? Do I think violence can be beautiful?
Was that last episode or two ago?
Yeah, and the question was, hey, do you think violence can be beautiful? And I think here's the way I answered it. I think if I was walking down the street right now and I needed to get violent, and everybody knows how violent I can get, obviously, because it's all over the internet and it's all over these fight highlights and all that kind of stuff. If I needed to get violent to protect somebody, to take care of somebody, to stop somebody who was going to do harm, I think that's some beautiful violence. If I am completely operating within my gifts, and I think we posted a video today, like kind of some highlights of me and Justin Gaethje. I mean, I'm bleeding, I am battered, I am dropped, I am huffing and puffing. I look like an absolute psychopathic savage. But I think that violence is beautiful. I'm operating within the confines of the unified rules of mixed martial arts in a cage in front of millions of people around the world. And Caleb cares enough and has watched me enough, and you guys have watched me enough and I guess trust me enough or think highly enough of me to send in your questions. And a lot of times your deep, deep questions about pain and loss and drugs and addiction and depression and heartbreak and all of these different things. So let me ask you this, Caleb, or anybody else, or any of you uptight Christians who say that what I'm doing is a little bit too violent. And I'm not coming at Caleb right now. I love that he actually asked this question, because I get asked this question a lot, and I love being able to talk about it, because I think anytime, I've spoken at churches, by the way, I've spoken at men's conferences. I have been on the microphone on stage at these different events, and a lot of times, or sometimes they're Christian events, and people love it, man. People absolutely love it. Now, with that being said, I'm sure there's some people in the crowd biting their tongue, shaking their head, saying, yeah, I don't know about that highlight. This guy, I don't know if I can trust this guy, because anybody who could do that in a cage, I don't know if that's the way a Christian should operate. And that's completely fine. But all I would say is, who are you as a human being, another one of God's creations? Who are you to question what my calling is? As Christians, do we not want a platform to reach people? As a man of faith, do I not want the most amount of ears to be able to hear me? I am by no means perfect. I am not going to sit here and say that I deserve to be standing on stages and speaking from the pulpit and talking about scripture and talking about my calling and talking about God's grace and all of these different things. I'm not going to sit here and say that, because I don't think that God calls the qualified, he qualifies the called. I think, who are we to ever judge somebody's passion? Now, there's things I've said that I probably wish I wouldn't have said. That is not indicative of a good Christian man, but maybe I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. Maybe I love Jesus, but I stumble and fall. Maybe I love Jesus, but I'm a little bit violent. Maybe I love Jesus, but I am not perfect. Because if you're looking for perfection, please shut this thing off right now and don't ever listen and unsubscribe and don't ever send it to anybody. But I'm just a sinner saved by grace. But I love, Caleb, that you asked this question and even bringing up Psalms 11:5. But I think what I do is violent, but it's a sport. I think when I think Christian athlete, I think it's hard not to bring up a guy like Tim Tebow. I think it's hard not to say that Tim Tebow is probably the most outspoken athlete, Christian athlete that has ever walked the face of the earth. I think it's not even close. I think Tim Tebow is easily the most outspoken Christian athlete. Do you think for 1 minute that Tim Tebow running a quarterback sneak, running a quarterback dive straight up the middle on the 2-yard line, runs over 3 dudes and carries them into the end zone, maybe concussed him, maybe injured him, maybe hurt him? You think he felt bad about it? You think those times when Tim Tebow got a little animated and looked kind of psycho, but he was operating within his passions, do you think he felt bad about it? I just don't think so. Because you can sit here and say that a Christian is supposed to be meek and mild-tempered and turn the other cheek and know all the scriptures and know just what to say and kind of get that holier than thou kind of feeling. But I guarantee you I can win more people for Christ than that type of person can. I like my Christians to be a little bit edgy. I like my men of faith to be a little bit on the fringe. I like my men of faith to be a little bit salty. Because if you remember, Paul said, I have become all things to all men so that I can win a few. If all the Christians were, sorry if I may offend anybody, but skinny, little beta males, little afraid to hurt feelings, little know a lot of scriptures, no, I'm going to quote scripture to solve every little problem. No, man, that ain't real. If all the Christians were like that, I promise you, the Christian faith dies within a decade. We need dudes that are a little bit salty. We need dudes that are a little bit on the fringe. We need dudes that are a little bit violent. I'll tell you this right now. You're at the mall and something pops off. 2023, 2024, we know what can pop off with guns and violence and knives and crazy people out there. You want those skinny, little, feeble, little, scared little Christians who are just going to sit there, drop to their knees, pull out their Bible and pray? So that's my spiel. I don't at all, like I said, Caleb, I appreciate you asking this question. And anybody who's out there listening, I've gotten this question numerous times, and trust me, there's been Christians who have disagreed with me, and that's completely fine. But that's the way I feel about it. And I'm going to heaven just like you. So I'm not really that worried about it. But also I like to say too, and I always forget who said this, but it was my mentor, Chris Patterson, who said there was a pastor who told him, live your life with so much joy and zeal that uptight Christians question your salvation. So think about that. The uptight Christians, you should be living in a way, so much joy, so much peace, maybe on the fringe a little bit, I don't know, that the uptight Christians question your salvation. And if the uptight Christians are going to question my salvation, that is completely fine. So Caleb, thank you so much. I think opening up this conversation about Christianity, faith, man of faith. Can you be a good man of faith and still punch people in the face? Do you have to turn the other cheek? You know, I think I appreciate that question because I've gotten it numerous times, and I'm glad we got to open it up here on Walk On Wisdom.